Last time around, we talked about 4 reasons why people say they go to work. The first is that to make money and pay bills. The second is identity. The third is purpose and significance. And the fourth is success, status, and recognition. But we said God didn't create work for any of these reasons. But before we discuss why God created work, let me point out, while these popular reasons why people say they work are faulty and in some cases outrightly dangerous. Take money making and paying bills as a reason, for instance. When God put Adam in the garden, he had no lack. He had more than enough to eat. He had no need for clothing, no need for shelter. So you see, God didn't put him in the garden for the purpose of earning wages and paying bills. While reward for work may pay your bills, making money should never be the real reason why you or anyone work. But what about identity, success, status, and recognition? Now, let me show you how culture has forced us to connect what we do with who we are. What is the second question people most regularly ask you when they meet you for the first time? The conversation goes something like this. Hi, my name is Tony. What's yours? Oh, my name is David. It's a pleasure to meet you, David. What do you do? You see, what you do is now an identity issue. This is why unemployment can become a psychological issue. Because without realizing it, your esteem gets wrapped up in what you do. And this can be particularly so for men. However, we were not designed to source our esteem from work. We were designed to get it from who we are in Christ. But because we live in a culture where prestige and status often define who we are, it is easy for what we do to become a measure of who we are. Sadly, when you allow what you do to become a measure of who you are, it not only creates a distorted view about your identity, but a very fragile one that can so easily be crushed by changing circumstances. This is one of the reasons why fear is so rampant in the workplace. Here's what happens if you allow your identity to become formed by what you do. You start to cling to what you do as if your life depends on it. And the tighter you cling, the greater your fear of losing or letting go. Because if you let go or lose your job, it will feel like losing a part of your identity. And that can be very threatening, if not outrightly frightening. In today's world, where uncertainty and insecurity have become the standard workplace reality, allowing yourself to derive your identity from what you do is a recipe for disaster. Finally, let me talk about purpose and significance as one of those erroneous reasons why people say they work. Have you ever heard someone make this statement before? Or maybe you have made it yourself. That job doesn't have a future. Someone once said, quote, "There is no future in any job. The future lies in the man who holds the job." End of quote. So there is no work without a purpose. There is no job without significance. But it is the worker that gives purpose and significance to work. Your job is not the place where you find your purpose. Your job doesn't confer life purpose on you. Rather, it's merely a platform for the expression of your purpose. You see, it is the maker that confers purpose on the product. And if God is your maker, then your purpose resides with him. Now, I think it's clear that none of the reasons why most people say they go to work agree with why God actually created work. And if this is the case, then the question begging to be answered is, so why did God create work? While I was studying, I came across an article that was written many years ago by an accomplished British author and poet, Dorothy Sayers. And she wrote a lot about work and fate. In one of her famous writings, she wrote, quote, "The habit of thinking about work as something you do to make money or to get a higher position in society. It's so ingrained in us that we can't comprehend the revolutionary biblical doctrine of work. Nobody today works for the sake of the thing they do. The result of work is only a byproduct of their real aim. The real aim of work is money and status. So doctors practice medicine not so much to relieve suffering, but to make a living. The patient is something that happens along the way. Lawyers accept briefs, not because of their passion for justice, but because this is the profession that enables them to live. End of quote. How true? Clearly, the modern doctrine of work is miles apart from God's biblical concept of work. Let me read out two important verses from the Bible. The first is Genesis 1:28, and I quote, God blessed them and said, have many children and grow in numbers, fill the earth and be its master. Rule over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the sky and over every living thing that moves on the face of the earth. End of quote. The second quote is in Genesis chapter 2 verse 15. Quote, then the Lord put a man in the Garden of Eden to care for it and to work it. End of quote. These two verses captures God's mandate for work. Work, therefore, is for the purpose of mastering and stewarding all of God's creation for the flourishing of humanity to the glory of God. Stewarding is caring for all that's already created. And mastering is partnering with God to further his creative endeavors in the universe. So all good work is an extension of the work of God. Now, if that is true, and it is true, as a Christian, how important should your work be? How seriously should you take Monday? Well, I hope to see you next time around. Stay blessed.